Hey everyone, this is Ed McGill, host of the podcast Leadership with Ed. And before we get started with my good friend Will Keeps, just want to thank all the viewers that we have out there. Make sure you continue to subscribe and sign up and forward to your friends. And we're going to have another great episode on leadership today. And so joining me is Will Keeps right here in Des Moines, Iowa. So not only does he have a great, cool name, he's got an incredible story that we're going to talk about in the leadership journey, because the leadership journey that Will started on was actually, and what he's built here in Des Moines was, as a new business owner, a new endeavor, being a young leader and having to learn and grow and mature on the job. So we're going to spend some fun talking about Starts Right Here and leadership and who's affected you, Will. But I think first, it is good to get a little background. You and I are similar because you grew up on the tough streets of Chicago. I grew up on those equally tough streets of Council Bluffs, Iowa.
Okay.
Maybe not comparable, but close. But how'd you end up in Des Moines from Chicago? And tell us about the event that day that just shaped your life and who you are.
Well, my brother lived in Des Moines, Iowa. He went to Drake University. And so in Chicago, I was still having issues with gangs and drugs and being part of that street life. And it was one day where I got in a lot of trouble. And I told myself, if I stay here in Chicago, I'm not going to make it. And so I called my brother and I said, hey, man, I need to be somewhere else other than where I'm at. Can you please, if I come out there, can you put me up for a little while so I can, get my life together and find my own place? And he said, yeah. And so I came out to Des Moines, and when I came out here, I was looking around and I said, where am I? I didn't see, I'm so used to the city lights. Yep. But I didn't see, I'm seeing all this farm stuff and just trees, and there was no lights, and I'm like, where am I going? And then when I got here, the one thing that I got excited about, and this was like the late 90s, like 98. The one thing I got excited about is that the gas was 89 cents. And I was like, it was $2 in Chicago, I think, at the time, and out here it was 89 cents. And I flipped out. I said, the gas out here is 89 cents? So I'm thinking everything out here was cheaper. I was going to get richer. You know what I'm saying? I was going to save some more money. You know what I mean? But, yeah, that's how I came out here.
No, that's awesome. And I remember, when you talk about just the street life and the gang life, we'll talk about just some of the different tragedies in your life and things that happened. But, that first big one was just, with that, that scene or the fight and getting stabbed and really also, realizing that if you stayed in Chicago, that, like you said, you weren't just going to make it out. And I think that initially probably shaped, that phone call was just some of the things you were seeing and doing and being involved in on the streets, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I had to be smart about it, man. Even though I never wanted to leave Chicago, I knew I had to. I knew I had so much more in me to give. And I was signed with Mary J. Blige at the time too. And so I didn't want to mess up that record deal. I didn't want to mess it up for my group, and I just needed to get away. But me moving to Des Moines hurt that record deal as well. So but I had to move. Couldn't stay.
Yep. No, and we're glad you did. And, for those listening, I first saw Will at a couple charitable events, and so Will stands out a little bit. He's a large man. He lifted weights. He's a singer. He's got the skull cap and everything else. And then this guy's always smiling over here, and he always had a large contingency around him of people that were just hugging him and shaking his hand. And that's when I started learning about Starts Right Here and the energy that you brought to that. So tell us just your vision initially for Starts Right Here, because that was this journey of leadership that you had, was starting with this vision first. But tell us even about the school that you started.
Well, it all started me working for Man Up Iowa. I used to work for the post office out here, and I got hurt. And and the post office did not want to bring me back because I was a liability.
Okay.
And so they sent me through some rehabilitation program, and I chose to. And they had a bunch of lists of things I can do, and I chose to be like a social worker. And so I hooked up with this guy named oh my goodness. Well, anyway, I hooked up with a team called Man Up Iowa. And then when I hooked up with Man Up Iowa, they hooked me up with Next Step Counseling, and I started doing BS work.
Okay.
But I was like, this is not. I want to do more.
Yeah,
I
it
felt
wasn't
like I had.
the impact that you thought, or you weren't getting as deep as you wanted.
Right. I wanted to do more. Even though those are good organizations, I wanted to do more. I wanted to speak to the kids more. I seen some things that maybe they didn't see, and I
Hmm.
had a different type of formula in the way I spoke, in the way I addressed things. And some of it got me in trouble, but I learned from that, because sometimes I can speak too freely, and so I always, then I built this relationship with the governor and the police chief, and I was just telling myself, I want like an after school program. I did get inside the more public schools and start creating a program called the Porch inside the more public schools, the elementary school, middle school, and high school. And it was very successful. I started doing motivational speaking. So I created a buzz. But then there was one time where this kid, named Terry Harris got shot in his own home. And he was a friend of my son and my nephew. And my son and my nephew was supposed to have been at the house during the time when he got shot. But because they didn't do their chores, I told them they couldn't go until their chores was done. And so if they was there, they probably would have got shot too. Well, I don't know what would have happened, but um, I'm glad they wasn't there. But we were so close to Terry that my kids wanted me to do a song about what's going on in the community. So I did a song called Wake Up Iowa. And then when I did that song called Wake Up Iowa, it became very successful. A music video on it that was successful, and I started building the name. But then I wanted to do something more. I didn't want to just be in the schools. I wanted my own place, but I wanted an after school type program. But then one of my friends, well, one of the guys on the board who was my VP at the time, his name was Stoy. He said, "Will, why don't you build a school?" And I'm looking at him like, "Build a school? I'm not no LeBron James. I can't. How am I gonna do that?" And so he was like, "Man, you can do it if you put your mind to it. You can do it." So I started talking to the governor about that, and all of a sudden start talking to the public schools and putting a buzz in their ear, and started raising money to build this building that was going to be formed into like an alternative type school. And so I had no idea that this was going to be where it is today, because when you start something from the ground up, it's so hard. It's so hard to get people to listen to you, to understand your vision, to actually see your vision. It's like it's so hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but then all of a sudden, some situation happened with George Floyd got killed, and the pandemic happened, and then there was so many people that wanted to help the Black community, and because my name was out there so tough, a lot of people chose to help me, and when they did that, I raised like $1 million to build this facility and start my school and built that partnership with the more public schools. Now, we're at 90 graduates now at 4.5 years. 90 graduates, kids that would not have graduated at all if we didn't build this program.
Let's talk about the kids that are coming through your program, because you had a term for them when we first met and when I was on the board of. It wasn't the unwanted. It was you had a different term of just these. When you talk about an alternative school, and maybe these kids that would have dropped out and stayed dropped out, that now you've had 90 graduates. Tell us a little bit about the kids that you're serving.
I call them. Some people call them at risk. I call them lost.
Lost.
You
That's what.
know,
Yeah, lost. There you go.
and I use that word because it's in the Bible. I was once lost, but now found. And
Yep.
so a lot of these kids now, they just need to be found. And they need to find themselves. And so what starts right here is focuses on is helping them find themselves, letting them know that they have these they have these superpowers that they don't even know exist in them. So we want to help them, find those powers that they have, and let them know that they're ready for the world if you let somebody help you develop to be prepared for the world. And during the time I was helping these kids, I was actually, a puppy myself in this whole organization nonprofit thing. And so it was kind of hard to maneuver everything, but if you have the passion, to make a difference, you're gonna figure it out. Just like when I met you, you saw me at a restaurant one day,
Yeah. Came up
and
and said, "Hey,
yeah,
you are. What are you doing?"
right, right. Who would have known that we would be friends? You know what I'm saying? That you would have been on my board. You was on my board for about a year, 2 years probably. You know
Yep.
what I'm saying? And we created a friendship. And so it's all about building relationship. You want things done. I keep teaching people to keep building relationships. And if you disagree with somebody, but don't let a disagreement stop progress. you know? And those are some of the things I'm teaching the kids, and letting the kids know that the whole world out here, other than the little small scope that you're seeing in Des Moines, Iowa.
Well, that's cool. And there's two things I thought of when you said building the relationship. The first one is with Des Moines Public Schools, because in an era where charter schools like yours are being built, the public schools can view that as competition. I don't know if competition is the right word, but a negative. And you have this kind of battle. You've been able, I mean, it's been challenges on both sides to work with Des Moines Public Schools to say, if we keep the focus on the kids, the lost children, the lost students, then we can work this out. Tell us a little bit about your relationship with Des Moines schools and how you've had to really hone the leadership skills for them to see you as a someone that is building something that supplements what the Des Moines Public Schools is doing.
First, I want to say that Des Moines Public Schools is a great partnership,
That's
and the
awesome.
only reason and the only reason why that I wanted the charter school uh, to be bill to be passed is because after the pandemic, you had thousands kids dropping out of school,
Yep.
and they wasn't going back to school, and some kids didn't want to go back to the public schools, so they need another option. And so I was thinking about, like you said, thinking about the kids first. I wasn't thinking about the money. I was thinking about the kids first. And so, working with the more public schools, it was challenging, because there was a lot of people in the more public schools that was upset with me
Hmm.
because of me fighting for this charter school bill. They didn't understand why I was doing it. But at one point, you had new people come in into more public schools, and they start seeing that, well, maybe we do need to make a change. And I kept that relationship with the more public schools, and I kept it powerful because I felt like working with the more public schools will give the kids a better opportunity to have a brighter future. You know what I'm saying? And to learn more and to have more resources. But I had no idea that one day that I was going to expand to the point where, I'm building housing and a school in the same building. And I had no idea that Des Moines Public Schools were going to partner with me to actually do a charter school together. See,
See,
that's new news for everybody. And I just blurted it out, and I shouldn't have done it, but I did it.
well, I want to highlight two things there. One, in an era where everyone seems to be fighting for their own turf, their own things, one, you led with Des Moines Public Schools has been a great partner. And then
Mhm.
how you took uh, this charter school and saying, how do we focus on the kids, keep it going forward, and then now being able to build now with housing and the school? Because when I was on the board, you were in that strip mall and you could only serve X number of kids and then they would leave. They go home at night and things. And so one of the questions I was going to ask is, what's your vision? I knew it, but I wanted you to be able to say it. You kind of started talking about it, but tell us now, 5 years from now, what's the vision and who have been the best advocates and leaders in your own development through all this that have been helping you?
Well, the vision is in 5 years is to be able to have housing like a dorm where kids have to be able to go to school to stay in my building.
Yeah.
Right, right now, we have a preference of 18 to 24 of homeless youth, but I can't force them to go to school. And
Uh,
so, I want to change that one day because I don't want to keep giving these kids choices because a lot of them always make the wrong one.
yeah.
And I'm just saying that, just keeping it real with everybody. And so, the vision is to constantly keep building these charter schools, these small charter schools that can hold 200 kids, um, and actually work with different districts. Like have Ankeny, if they Ankeny wanted some kids to have a different type of setting of education, they can come to us. Altoona, West Des Moines, Urbandale, I mean Waukee, any district that is looking for help when it comes down to their students. We want to build something that can actually help that. And so that is the vision to keep moving forward. I had a lot of people reaching out saying, "Can we bring Starts Right Here to different parts of Iowa?" And I said yes, but money's always the problem. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? In getting these things done. The people that helped me through this whole thing is my wife, my board, the governor, uh, Debbie Durham, and I'm gonna say her name, Governor Kim Reynolds.
That's just
Debbie,
tell who that is because she's been a big advocate, and that was a big deal of reaching across the aisle because she's a Republican governor. You tended, as you told me, Democratic, etc. And then also just even within your own community of why you talking to her, different party, different race, different things that you shared with me some of those hurdles of even forming those relationships. So talk about walking across the aisle with someone like with Kim.
well, I want to say this too is that before I say that, I want to mention that the kids that are graduating, that's coming to the school, are a huge part of Starts Right Here's success as well.
Yeah.
The kids who actually graduate and stay in the school is actually helping the other ones come in and keeping this place open. So I want to mention that the kids are a huge part of what we're doing. My relationship with Kim Reynolds was it was very tough. See, when I first started, I thought having a nonprofit, building a relationship with the police, building a relationship with with the government, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm on the inside. I'm on the inside. You know what I mean? And now I can create change. But what it did was it not all the black community, but a handful really looked at me like I was a traitor.
Hmm.
And that I sold my soul to the devil because of these relationships that I had. But they wasn't looking at the bigger picture. I got tired of seeing our community get crumbs, and I'm seeing everybody else get the finer things. But we got hand-me-downs from anywhere, which it's okay to take. But at one point, when are we going to let our kids know that they deserve just what everybody else get?
Yeah.
You know
This,
what I'm saying?
yeah.
And so I wanted to build these relationships to make sure I didn't give my community crumbs. Come on, man, I'm a black man with a do rag on my head. It's hard for anybody to to even trust somebody who look like me. And I'm just keeping it 100.
Yep.
And and for people in power, and I'm not gonna say white folks, I'm gonna say people in power that trusted me to do this. It meant a lot to me, and I wasn't gonna let nobody down. I wasn't gonna let Kim down, Debbie Durham down, Joni Ernst. I wasn't gonna let the black community down. I wasn't gonna let these kids down, parents, the school, my family. I wasn't gonna let God down. God, people always talk about, God put favor on me, and I didn't even know what favor was when I first heard it. But now I understand what favor is. And God put favor on me to be in this position right now to really make a change. And not just with our youth, but bringing people together like the Democrats, Republicans, and, the state, the city, Polk County, bringing people together. Like we really had, like, I raised like $5.5 million already, almost 6 million. And the state, city, and Polk County actually worked together to make this happen. And when
See,
you ever hear something like that,
yeah, and that's what I want everyone to hear right there and take from this is you had an unconventional leader, as Will said, a black man with a do-rag that, would come into these meetings with the governor or the Polk County board, etc. Most people are probably in suits or ties or sports coats, always being
and I
himself.
come and I come with a jersey.
Yeah, that's right. He's a Bears fan, everyone. He's got the Bears jersey. Um, but coming in there and just saying, I am who I am, and here's the focus. And have you found that now, based on, where you have built this brand, you have built this school, is it easier to navigate, or do you still see other challenges as a black leader in a city like Des Moines? Are they similar, different, easier? What's changed for you as a leader and how you view it from your just background?
In Des Moines.
Yeah, in Des Moines, and maybe even across, because you're probably also talking to people across the state and other places. Just just what you're seeing, because I think the viewers want to know what's it like to be a leader that, as you said, is a little bit different in terms of their attire. And you said they haven't seen someone like me, but tell us what that's like.
It's like you always have to prove yourself,
Mm,
and it's like you're in the middle. You have the white community will look at me at first and not be sure, and then you have the black community who wants me to help the community, but they don't like who I'm working with,
yeah,
you know, and so to be in that middle and not don't know how to get out of it is stressful, and it can create some anxiety because my whole thing is I want to work with people that want to create change. And when the black community say that I'm working with people that are racist, I don't see that. But if they are racist, I decide to let racism help me create equality instead of running from it.
oh, that's a great
And
line. Or say that again. You allowed.
I decided to let racism help me create quality instead of running from it.
Yeah, so if someone truly was doing it for the wrong reasons, you're like, hey, that's fine. If it helps me get us, this school, further ahead, hey, whatever you do,
Yes.
I'm fine with that.
And they don't think that I'm gonna make, and they don't think I'm gonna make it happen. And so when I do make it happen, guess who helped me do it?
Yeah.
So I can't run from it. I have to, because you really don't know who is racist or not. Some people just might not understand our culture, and they may sound a little bit racist, or they're used to saying certain words. You know, like I went to a family one day, 10, about 10, 15, 10 years ago, and the grandmama said Negro,
Hmm.
but she's so used to saying that word, she didn't think nothing was wrong with it.
Yeah.
I mean, she was born in the 1910s. You know what I'm saying? You know, I
Yeah.
could have, I could have took it the wrong way, but I had to look at it and be like, she thinks she's been saying that word all her life and think nothing wrong with it because nobody really sat down with her and told her, maybe some people might get offended with that,
Yeah.
you know? So it, so yeah, man, I'm in the middle, but the crazy thing is after the shooting, and I know you want to talk about that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
let me put a framework on that because Will's leadership and just the whole school and everything was tested in January of 2023. Where just some tragedies happened, and Will's going to talk about this now because it's powerful. It's tragic, it's powerful, and then how do you fight through adversity? So yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, January the 23rd, 2023. Um, I woke up that morning and I felt good. I felt like it, man, I felt so good that day. I had brand new clothes on, I knew we had some kids that was about to graduate and getting ready to graduate. And one of them was Preston, the one who did the shooting. Preston was graduating within 2 days. He was going to ace this test, that he was going to take because he did so good in the pre-test. So I had a good day. And I wore this ring that I never wear. And I just wanted to put on this ring, this diamond ring that I had, and I wanted to put it on just because I felt good. I don't know why. And so I go to school that day and everything is fine. Everything's cool. But at 12:50, I saw Preston come in with his hand inside his coat. And I walked towards him immediately. And as I'm walking toward him, I'm telling myself, man, I hope this dude ain't got no gun,
Mm.
you know? And I'm walking towards him and I put my arms around him and I'm talking to him saying, man, you're about to pass this test, man. You're doing good, man. I'm proud of you. You try to get him out the door. As I'm trying to get him out the door, he goes under me. And when he goes under me, he starts shooting.
Ah.
And he shot 2 students and killed 2 students and shot me twice. In that first 3 seconds, he shot 33 rounds in about 7 to 8 seconds. In that first 3 seconds, I was in shock. So it's like, pow, 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 pow. What's going on? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Then Rashad had ran my way and he tripped as he was getting shot. And I didn't even see Rashad run my way because I was too busy looking at Preston. And as I'm looking at Preston turned the gun around within the 4th second and he shot me twice. Now, he said he didn't mean to shoot me, but he shot me twice. And that ring that I told you that I never wear
Yep.
was next to my heart. And it shot one of the bullets hit that ring. And it saved me that day. And as I'm on the ground, I'm watching him going back and forth, just shooting these kids. I mean, shot one of them 13 times and shot another one 9 times and missed the other times. Well, me 2 times and then missed the other times. And it was the most, I always say when I tell my story, I always say that when I was molested at 7 years old, that was the worst thing that ever happened to me. When I was 9 years old and my mom dropped me off at my father's house, then my father dropped me back over to my mom's house. That was the worst thing that ever happened to me because I felt like nobody wanted me. When I was 15 years old and I saw my friend die and I almost died that day, that was the worst thing that ever happened to me. And it kept going on and on and on all my life. I had no idea at the age of 49 in 2023, that would be the worst thing that ever happened to me. And so I just sometimes pray to God and say, God, please, I don't want no more worse things. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
To happen to me. I felt like I paid my dues, but when you're in this type of war, I mean, you're gonna get scratched up a lot.
It
And
is.
so,
Did you think after that? I remember coming to visit you in the hospital and we couldn't see you. You actually had the police were there and guards, and I talked to your wife, and you're having the surgery on the finger and everything else. But on those days afterwards, as a board, when we're meeting and talking about this, did it cross your mind like, okay, that it's time to close the school, which obviously that didn't happen, or was it right away? Nope, this is why I'm doing it. I need to help more, protect more, save more. How did you come out of that after that tragedy back in January of 2023?
so a split second, I thought that people weren't going to want to come to the school anymore, because of what happened. But with me, it made me mad, where I wanted, I wanted to keep fighting. I wanted to go back to school within 2 weeks of the shooting. And everybody was looking at me like, even y'all, the board was like, no, take it, give yourself some time. You know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
I came back a month later, but I came back still not ready. I came back in so much pain mentally and so much pain physically. But I'd rather be in pain going to work, helping these kids than being in pain at home doing nothing. And so I just I wanted to keep fighting. It's like this is the shooting is the reason why you keep fighting.
Yeah.
You want to prevent that from happening again. You don't run from it. You want to prevent it from happening again. You know? And for me to get so much support, but then the backlash came where people were saying it was my fault. You know what I'm saying? I should have had security. I should have had this. I should have had that. And I'm like, man, it's like, I guess y'all had to be there. You know, I would never, you know what I'm saying, like come at somebody in such a negative way when something tragic just happened like that and that person is trying to deal with it and try to understand it. But people out there are cruel, man. They don't care. You know, like me getting sued by the family. You know, that breaks my heart, you know? And that's still happening right now. That lawsuit is still going on right now. And that's all I can talk about when it comes down to that lawsuit.
Yeah.
But it's happening right now. And it's like what do you want me to what did you want me to do? Like this man was shooting 33 rounds in 8 seconds, running around. I didn't have a chance. So yeah, man.
No, that is.
That's a whole nother book.
And we'll talk about your book at the end. But as you were describing that, I was fortunate, Will, recently to be at a conference where Tim Tebow was one of the speakers, and talking to him afterwards, I said, hey, expand on this. And he talked about the joy and the burden of leadership. And he was talking about at his yearly event, and his ministry now is saving children. And he just talked about the joy was we're having our national gala, and we have all these galas going on across the world. You know, it's all one night for the foundation, and he goes, that's the joy. And then later that night, I heard one of the young girls that we were trying to save, you know, was ended up being killed. And so you have this joy of this gala and the event, and then you now then have this burden of we could have did more. What else should I have done? What else could I have done? How did we, you know, there wasn't anything at fault, but that burden, and you can't share it with everyone. You can't tell the whole organization. You have 2 or 3 close people who are saying, here's what happened. And what's interesting for those of you listening, as Will was saying that, we're going to end on 2 really fun, positive things. But one, the joy of what he just said, of what he's built and what he's been able to do and cross the aisle and take this from a vision of, hey, you should start a school, to having that school, but now to have it be a facility where the kids actually stay there, live there. That's what's going to be remodeled and built here in Des Moines. And then the vision for taking something bigger. And then the burden of being a leader, which, you know, is just some of the internal battles with, you know, the community. And then, you know, what happened with the tragedy and stuff then too, that you're a perfect example of all the joy and then the burdens that you have to go through, you know, if you're going to be a leader. And I wrote down where you said, Lord, I'd just be good if that was my last worst day. You know, kind of my dues and done that. And for those of you out there that are going through, you know, different tough times in your own leadership journey, just remember there's always things like this where you hear these stories. And I love the story Will told because it does help put things in perspective. You know, maybe you lost a key client at your company where you're leading, or you lost a key team member, and then just reflect back on what Will just said of what he went through in January and is still going on. And then you say, okay, where does these things fall for me? Now, the 2 positive things, one, because you mentioned it, I saw you building it in your current facility. Tell us about the porch, because that's just really cool, and the symbolism that has in the school. And I assume it's going to be in the new school as well too. But tell us about the porch.
Yeah, and I want to just add on to what you said and what Tim Tebow said is that my saying is that I didn't think that good would hurt so bad. Doing good would hurt so bad.
That's awesome. That's a great add-on right there. Thanks for adding that.
So the porch, in Chicago, we sit on the porch. We'll talk about girls. We roast each other, but serious conversation will always happen on that porch because something's always happening in the hood. And so I built this program in elementary school,
So
middle school,
in
and
the hood, like there was one specific porch you were always going to, like the whole
yeah,
neighborhood. Yeah.
yeah. Every okay. It's so many different porches in Chicago, but my porch was one of the porches everybody, what I'm saying, came to sit down and talk.
Yep.
And so I built this program inside elementary school, middle school, and in high school, and it became very successful. So when I got my own building, I decided to, instead of having a porch inside the classroom, to build a porch, the actual porch I used to sit on in Chicago inside the school. And so you got a bunch of pictures and videos of us on that porch. And so that porch is very successful where we can talk about anything. Now, there's no holds bars on that porch. Language, anything is everything. Everybody is able to be able to speak their piece on that porch. And so, and when you allow the kids to be able to speak the way they want to speak, more things come out. And that porch is like that magnet where you know how some people can get uncomfortable with conversations, uncomfortable with some type of language, uncomfortable. But when people are uncomfortable sometimes with that, I understand it, but then I want them to try to embrace it because when these kids go out there in the streets and they're selling drugs and they're listening to this music that is like a cult that's getting them to do these negative things and one of them and teaching them how to be a bad boy or a bad girl, have whatever you want to call it. Um, that's very uncomfortable to
Hmm.
see that and to watch them go into a world of destruction. So So when you hear somebody positive talking real and saying some language that you might feel to be uncomfortable, I want you to take a back seat sometimes and see how that how just somebody being authentic and being themselves in a positive way can really reach a kid that's looking for that. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense, and I love the safety of the porch, and we'll put up Rob will put up in the trailer here a little video of the porch, and it is a replica from Will there. But if you think of it's a safe zone, I heard a football coach talk about this chair that some booster someone had given him. He's like, "What do I do with this chair?" And he ended up putting it in his office, and it became known as the truth telling chair or something like that. It just was or the safe chair, where someone could sit and just say, "Hey, here's what's on my mind. Here's what's on my heart." When I coached youth football, the kids knew once you crossed over the yard line to get onto the field, then hey, we're going to focus on fun and football, and everyone is a teammate, everyone's your peer, everyone's your friend. This is your safe zone to come and let's just have a great 2 hour practice together. And so that analogy or the visual of the porch where the kids go, "Hey, Will, I got to get on the porch. I need to talk to you," or with their friends, other people. I just love that you said every neighborhood in the hood had a porch, and yours is one of them. I always love that. I picture you as a 13, 14-year old and this group of kids, and maybe one or two of the dads in the neighborhood that just came over and are sitting there, and the wisdom that was being spewed was probably awesome at times.
And we didn't even realize it was wisdom being spewed. You know what I'm saying? We were just having a conversation, but we was learning so much on that porch.
Yeah. So I urge everyone, whether it be the chair, whether it be the football field, whether it be the porch, what environment are you creating for your team, to come and just have these real deep conversations on that side? And the other thing I'm going to end with here is Will has a great book out there. It's called Willpower. And so Will Keeps and then it also has his real last name, Holmes. Will Keeps was your stage name, your singing and name then too. But that's a great book to get that we'll put into the chat at the end here, where you can really learn more about Will and his story and stuff. And I would urge all of you to follow him on LinkedIn. It's a great follow on Instagram. I follow Will on LinkedIn, but that's where you see all the kids graduating, all the awesome news that's happening out there, and then just what he's doing, because we want to really support Will and what he's doing. It's a special school. I love how he gave credit to so many other people. Will's very other focused. And so even though this could be about him, he mentioned God, his faith, being, having grace. but then also recognizing others that are helping this journey come true. So, Will, I love how you said we became friends. We definitely did. Just saw you recently at dinner, and that was fun.
Yeah.
Love seeing you, my friend, and that 1,000-watt smile, and just thanks for all the good that you're doing in Des Moines. But anything you want to end with here?
No, this is a great interview, man. Thank you for having me, man. And I just want everybody to always remember, do not let a disagreement stop progress. And it's not about what you've been through, but it's how you get through.
And that's right, the subtitle of the book. It's not what you've been through, what you get through. And I love that. Don't let disagreement stop progress. We're going to end there. This is Ed McGill, host of the podcast Leadership with Ed, signing off with my good friend, Will Keeps. Thanks,
All
everyone.
right, guys. Take care.